Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Toni and I'm a homeschooling mom to 4 kids. My channel is all about homeschool curriculum, sharing any sort of homeschool tips that I have gained over the years of homeschooling. I've been homeschooling since my oldest was a tiny little one, and she's going into 7th grade next year. Also, I have a very thrifty lifestyle. That's why we're called our Thrifty Homeschool. So if you have interest in those kind of things, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. And if you click the little bell, you'll get notified every time one of my videos comes out. So today's video is all about our homeschool year for 2020 to 2021. So I'm just gonna give you guys kind of a look at what we used this past year. I'll share with you what we liked, what we didn't like. It was a really good school year. It was also a really crazy school year, as it probably was for everyone else around the globe. But we're almost done with school, so I feel like we're close enough to the end that I can go ahead and give you guys an honest review of what we used. So if you guys want to see what we used and how it worked out for us, then stay tuned. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover the family subjects. We do family style learning with a lot of our things first thing in the morning. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about what we used for our family subjects, and then I'll go into the individual subjects. The first subject that we start every single day with is Bible. Now I will first of all show you the Bibles that we used. I did do a video on this, so I won't show an in-depth look, but the Bibles that we use that my girls have are awesome, and I would highly recommend them to anyone looking for a Bible. They have them in all kinds of versions, but we have 2 different kinds. One is called My Creative Bible, and these are just beautiful, especially if you have girls, but I'm sure they have ones that boys would like too. This is already printed in a lot of these pages, and the kids can just color it in as you read. So when we would read through something, we've been doing a little bit of Bible journaling, so that's what they look like before, and then they can just color it in. I feel like it just brings your Bible studying alive. So that's called My Creative Bible. I can link these in the comments below in case anyone is interested in these. My other daughter has the same exact Bible. It just has a different cover called My Creative Bible. We just read directly out of these. My other daughter actually has the same Bible as me. This is called the Notetaking Bible. So this is different. You typically use this more for an older child, or this is the one I have. So it's just got big, wide margins for you to make notes in. So as we're studying, if there's something that we come across, like right here, we came across the word iniquity. We went ahead and underlined it, and they wrote iniquity in the margin there, just so that next time as you're reading that, you come across it, then you know what the word means. I do that in my Bible too. So these are great for that because it gives you so much space to be able to mark up your Bibles and things like that. So I would highly recommend those. So what we did for Bible this year was we started out in the beginning of the year we used this book as kind of our spine. So this is called 90 Devotions for Kids. It's Adventures in Odyssey, and it takes you through the book of Matthew. They're just nice little devotions, and then it's got a little thing, if your kids are familiar with Adventures in Odyssey, they've got a little thing from Wooten, which is one of the guys from Adventures in Odyssey. It's got a little like summary of how to apply it to your life, and then a daily challenge, like how can you put this into practice, and then you pray and all that. So we did this for part of the year. This is a really good devotional if you just want to work through the book of Matthew, or if you like Adventures in Odyssey. Now we used this on the days that we did history. We do history 3 days a week, and then we used this on the days that we did science. This is awesome too. This is called Indescribable by Louis Giglio, and this is really good. It's cool. We didn't go directly through the entire devotional. We just picked which devotions matched up and lined up with what we were studying for science, which was so cool. So I really loved this. So it has a table of contents in the front where you can just go down and find whatever topic it is that you're studying. So we were doing the human body. So we would go through and find something, taste and see. You know, that's gonna be about taste buds. So you turn to page 94, and it's gonna have a little quick devotional. It usually has some sort of science fact along with it too. It's got a prayer, different things. So it was so easy to find something that related to our science. Like every time I always found something. So this is really good. I did it with my girls who were 2nd grade, 4th grade, and 6th grade. So this wasn't too little for my oldest, and it wasn't too hard for my youngest. I think it was just a really good book. So I would definitely use this again. I thought this was great. So starting in January, I just decided I wanted to switch things up for Bible. So I went ahead and found this little printable online. I was out of ink, so this isn't the prettiest thing. But basically what it is a journey through the New Testament. So I decided that I think our kids, my girls and I, need to step it up, and we're going to go ahead and read through the New Testament and try to see how long it takes us to read through the New Testament. So you just mark off each box. So there's, Matthew there, and then it goes into Mark. We're going to keep chugging along at it, and however long it takes is how long it takes. So we just read a chapter a day, and then we mark it off. And this was just a fun thing to do together, to step it up, and then we just talk about things the scripture talks about, or answer any questions, or maybe study a word that we didn't understand or something like that. So we didn't do a Bible curriculum. We kind of just did our own thing, which is okay, and it was really good, and it was a sweet time for us to be together every single day. So that is kind of a summary of all that we did for Bible. So for science this year, we used the Good and the Beautiful, and they have different units where you can pick how many units you use. Our year has been super crazy. My husband has been battling some sickness since November, which really threw us off, and school hasn't happened as regularly as it should. So whatever, it is what it is, right? I bought 3 units that I had planned on using, but we actually are probably only going to get 2 done during the school year, and then I think I'm going to do the 3rd one in the summer, because it does look really good and I do like it. Life happened and we didn't have time to do 3. So the first one was the human body, which was really, really good. I thought it was such a great study, especially with everything that's going on around us in the world, and the girls got to understand how our body works, and I don't know, this was so good. The cool thing I like about it is it has not too many, but enough experiments, and it was all household items. I'm one of those moms that's like, oh, we got to get all those supplies for this experiment and then set it up and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. I guess I have to deal with that. But this was so nice because all the stuff was around the house. I always tried to look over it. They do have a supply list in the beginning that has all the units broken down, and it shows you what you need for like lesson 5. It tells you every single thing that you need for lesson 5. So you can just make sure you have it. And some of the lessons did not have experiments, which was nice too, because I don't know, it's nice to just be able to do the lesson and not have an experiment, but there were enough to keep my kids' interest. It was really good. So I ordered the pre-printed unit, and it just comes shrink wrapped, and then I put it in a binder here. The print quality is really good. So the lessons aren't super long. I will show you all these vocabulary words. As you read them, you put them up on the wall you can see where the sun made little marks on my bulletin board over there, but that's where these were. But they're nice color print vocabulary words and different things. So all these things went up there after we talk about it, and it's good quality paper. So anyway, it was really good. I feel like my kids learned a lot and they weren't super bored. I think we only had one experiment that didn't really work, but overall the experiments worked and they thought it was cool and it was fun. The nice thing is you can do it as a family. So I loved being able to have all 3 of my girls, and my son sometimes would sit in on the experiments, but I liked being able to do them as a family. So we did the human body, and right now we're finishing up space science, and space science was really good too. We really love it. It's been really interesting. So we have a few more lessons to finish up on this before we're done with the school year, but both of these were really good. The other one that we got is meteorology, that I will probably just do over the summer. But I loved this. I thought it was really, really good. If you like unit studies and you want to be able to teach all your kids together, then this is really good. They do have book lists where you can order books from the library and have them read living books that can even beef it up more. So if you have an older child and you want them to read, a book on Saturn or something and then do like a paper on it, you can do that. So I did assign different reading level books for my girls, and anyway, it was really good. So I did like the Good and the Beautiful Science. I really liked it a lot. So for history, we used Biblioplan for the first time, and I will say I super loved it. I thought it was really, really great. My girls, I think, really loved it. We did medieval days, and this is another thing that we sit down on the couch and we read this together. And one thing I like the most about this is just all the color pictures and all these little blocks of information. So I read all this big part, and then every time there's a little sentence underneath of the picture, I'll have one of my girls read that. I'll have one of my girls read that. Maybe one of them read this. So It's nice. It breaks it up. So it's not just me reading, for half an hour or whatever. It does break it up to make sure they're paying attention and they're really getting it. But I feel like it was interesting enough. It's a lot of information, but I feel like history is kind of like that in general. It's just really well done. It weaves Bible history and world history all together. You see how it ties in together, which I love. They do have lots of different add-ins that you can use. They do have a timeline that you can use. We didn't get that this year. I'll show you the two things that we did get. But I think a timeline would also kind of help you see how Bible and world history move in together, but you don't have to do that. So the two things that we used were hands-on maps for middles. This was really good. I did not have to do anything with this. This was a nice independent thing, and they have a map that has the instructions on the bottom, and then my girls just mark this in, and I just had my 4th grader and my 6th grader do this. But this was just nice. Once a week they did the hands-on maps that had to do with whatever. There's always a geography section in the history lesson, so they just did the maps on their own with that. This was the other thing that we got, which is Cool History for Middles for medieval history. I will say for the first half of the year, it was a bit of a struggle to do this because I felt like there was a lot of information in the history book and they didn't retain all of it. So I would open this up and make a copy, because you just make photocopies. I'd make a photocopy with all these questions on it and give it to them and tell them to answer it. And they're like, I don't know any of this stuff. So I ended up letting them use the textbook. They would just open it up and go back through and find the answers. But it did take a while. So a few weeks ago, I finally discovered the secret to this. I photocopy these now, and I give the girls the sheet on a clipboard or something while we're reading. And so you only read in sections. So this is like the whole week of questions. I gave them their paper, and I had them just keep an eye out for these questions. So it was only like through number 3 or 4 was for the section we read. Then they know. They're paying attention to where that information is. And then when I say, all right, you guys go work on that, we're moving on to something else, they know where to find it. They remember the information because they're reading it anyway. That worked really well. It was a lot easier. So I would recommend printing out this paper at the beginning of the week and having them kind of work through it throughout the week. The other thing that this is just for me, this is the teacher's guide, the family guide for Biblioplan. Love this so much. I have done an in-depth review of this, so if you want to see that, I'll go ahead and link it in the description box below. So if you want to see how I use this, go ahead and check out that video, because this is amazing. And I definitely think anything you're going to get from Biblioplan, you need to get the textbook, which is called Remember the Days, and you need to get the family guide, because this has literature, this has all kinds of stuff, but this has your different literature add-ins that you can have broken up by student, by grade. It's got your Bible, it's got all kinds of stuff. There's one more book I forgot to show you that we did use. So this is the other book that my big girls read through, and I really liked this. So I would recommend this book too, the Kingfisher History Encyclopedia. It's like a full color book, and so whatever we would read in here, it's scheduled out, so they would know afterwards, once a week, they would read just a more in-depth look at something that we covered in the history, and they would just sit down and read this together. So that's all it was just reading. But I really liked it, and I feel like it did help them just get a little more of a grasp on what we learned in history. So I liked this. I'm going to keep tying that into our history. So loved Biblioplan. I loved it. Thought it was great. So typing is another thing that I introduced my girls to this year. This is called Mavis Beacon Keyboarding for Kids. So it's just a CD that you put in the computer, and it teaches them how to type. It teaches them hand positioning, and it teaches them a lot through games. So I would say my 2 youngest really liked this. My 2 oldest said they gave it a thumbs down. So especially my oldest, I asked her, and she said she felt like it didn't really teach that much. Like it kind of instructed some, but most of it was like games and like, oh, push the F to knock down the whatever. So if your kids hate typing and would prefer video game type stuff, this could be really good. My kids aren't really into that. So especially the 2 big girls, they weren't a big fan. So we won't be doing this again, but I'm at least glad we got an intro, and it was one thing that I had to buy that they could all play with. Even my son liked to play with it sometimes. But it was okay. So now I will talk about the different individual subjects that my kids use. Math, they actually, all three girls were using Matthew C. So we have, and this was our first year using Matthew C. So my youngest girl used beta, my next girl used delta, and then the next one used epsilon. This is just the teacher's guide, but they each have a student book and manipulatives that they use. These two girls have the blocks that they didn't use a ton. I actually thought they'd use them more. This daughter used the blocks more, but I just thought it was something they'd be doing every day, but they really don't do it every day. But maybe they should, I don't know. This one, she had a fraction set. She did not like it. I think it's just because it was an extra step of having to do the fractions, but I think the fraction overlays were awesome. It just was like a physical way of seeing how to do it. I've done a review on this too, where I showed the fraction overlays and I showed everything that they did for this. So I will link that in the description box below too. So if you want to check out what exactly is involved in that, then go ahead and check that out afterwards. But we really liked Matthew C. I thought it was really good. I love that it is a DVD lesson. So once a week they go watch the DVD, and then the rest of the week they're just working in their workbooks. Sometimes I would say, okay, you're not getting this. Let's go sit and watch the video together. So me and her would go sit and watch the video together so that I understood how he was teaching it, and then I could help her. I hate teaching math. I think it's just the worst, and I wish I could stop. My husband helps when I completely can't do it anymore just because I don't like teaching math. I'll teach everything else, but I don't like math. But because I have to teach it, this was really good. I really liked that the lesson was on DVD, and I feel like the teacher really on the DVD really explained it well, and you're able to pause it and different stuff like that. So I liked it. I think my girls all liked it and they want to stick with it. So for math, yes, I think this was really good. I liked Matthew C. For my son, who was in pre-K this year, we used the Good and the Beautiful pre-K course book. So I absolutely loved this and thought it was amazing and wonderful for a little reluctant learner like my son, who has tons of energy and doesn't want to sit and do lessons that are super long. My girls would have sat in for an hour and done whatever lessons I had picked for them. He would not have. This was a really good book. It had all kinds of things that teaches them, even just cutting different lines. He learned his letters. There's handwriting mixed in here. This was just really good. Even like little picture studies where he had to talk about different things. I love that they tie in stuff like that. This had a lot of games involved. It has letters and sounds, vowels, numbers, colors, motor skills, sorting, matching, and rhyming. So I feel like it had everything we needed to do a good introduction to school, because this was really his first look at school. They had these little books. This also, I ordered all of this from The Good and the Beautiful. So this came bound like this. These were really cool. Different little matching books. So he has to find the capital A, and then he had to find the lowercase a, wherever that is. And then the matching picture, which would be, I'm pretty sure, the alligators on the back. And he had to line all that up. And this was just a fun way to trick them into learning and think, I'm playing a fun game. But they had 4 of these. We lost one by the end of the year. I don't know where it is. But they gave you 4 of those with the different letters to break up. They had different games, which I keep in these things that I got at Walmart that are awesome. They were so nice to be able to keep the games separated. But all these things, like, it's all learning. Like this was, you hide the cat under the different furniture pieces in the house, and then they have to just say the letter. Anyway, it was fun. And then this was feed the elephant. So you feed these little peanuts into the elephant's mouth as you say the letter sound or the number. Just a good way to reinforce the letters and the sounds and stuff like that. And this was one of the other ones, Mouse House. There are a bunch of little houses. I've shown this before on my day in the life, so you've probably seen this before if you've watched any of my videos. But you just hide the little mouse. Where's the mouse? You hide the little mouse underneath of one of these houses, and he has to guess which one it is. He loved it. He cheered and celebrated every time he would get it right, and it was just really fun. There were a few other games too. I didn't bring them all in here, but I love that there were games that taught the learning. So it wasn't just open your black and white workbook and talk about this, because he never would have done that. I feel like next year I could do something like that and I think he'd be okay. But this introduction to actually sitting and doing school, this was awesome and I love it and it was great. Okay, so another thing that we did this year with The Good and the Beautiful was their creative writing. I really did like this. Come up with rainbow words. So it told them, like, instead of just saying yellow, she came up with bright, vibrant, joyful, lemony. So it did really open up their creativity and their vocabulary. I liked it. I think it is good. It's not like, it's more of a helping them brainstorm and get more ideas. It just says, there's like practice writing sentences and different things like that. Or, this one says possible antagonists. You're basically just listing it. And then I think you either need to then prompt them to use that in a story or use a different creative writing on top of this. So this is basically just kind of the brainstorming aspect of creative writing, and then you need to make sure you take it further. So I did learn from that, and I think we're going to continue using this, and we're going to try to beef it up a little bit. So the next thing that we did with The Good and the Beautiful was their language arts. So I will show you for my 6th grader, the level 5 language arts. If you know anything about The Good and the Beautiful, it's a pretty advanced curriculum, and typically the average child places in the level below their grade. So this is normal that a 6th grader would be in level 5 unless your child is like super advanced. So anyway, this is the course book, which is like her student book. Then she had a shared reader, and there's a course companion that goes along with it also. And then one thing that I did love about this is they give the student the daily checklist, which was awesome, because if you have multiple kids trying to keep up and make sure everybody did what they were supposed to do, it's so nice to be able to look on here and say, did you do your geography cards or your grammar cards or whatever? And then they go, oops. But this helped keep her accountable with making sure she was doing everything she was supposed to be doing. I absolutely love this curriculum. I think it's awesome. We did order it through The Good and the Beautiful, so they printed this for me. But this has literature, grammar and usage, punctuation, art, geography, vocabulary, and writing. I think the art it's more art appreciation. So like there were lots of art, let me find something, like pictures like this that they would look at and study and talk about, or they'd have to, for this level, write something about it or answer questions. Lots of beautiful artwork in here. I loved that aspect of it, and I loved that that was in the language. But, and I believe there was some like watercolor and different things like that, but it wasn't an art curriculum, which is, they didn't say it was an art curriculum, but for my daughter who loves art, this wasn't enough for her, the art aspect of it. It was really good, and I loved that it was in there, but I need to make sure for next year that I actually order an art curriculum, because I guess I was just hoping this would be enough for her. Now, if your kid doesn't like art, this would be great, because I think it's just enough. But if your kid loves art, this may not be enough, but it does tie in art. It's really great. It makes some things a little more fun, like sentence diagramming, which is not fun. They've at least got little pictures and stuff like that. And I love that it's got some color pictures throughout. It has stories in here that they'll read in this book along with the stories in the shared reader. I think the only downside to this for me and my daughter, and that might just be our preference, they're all about good and beautiful stories, which I love, because I want to make sure we're reading stuff that's good and beautiful and uplifting and glorifying to God. I will say though, I found a lot of these stories pretty boring and dry, and I'm not sure if that's just us, because our preference is more, adventure, mystery type of books. So these were, there were good parts of it, and I liked that her and I sat and read together, because it didn't have her even at, in 6th grade, she's still reading out loud to me. So she's still practicing, and they have challenging words in here, stuff that she wasn't necessarily, maybe hadn't read that word before, and she had to work it out loud with me. So it was good. It was good, challenging books. I just didn't think they were super interesting. But like I said, I think that's just our preference. So, I mean, they're beautiful stories. They just didn't have a lot of excitement. So anyway, that's just our preference. We thought they were a little boring. I loved that we have this course companion, which has a lot of, it's the answer key. So that's how I grade her stuff. But it's also got quick references for her to look up stuff if she's not sure how to, how sentence diagramming works, or, she's not sure what an independent clause is. She can look it up in here. So it's nice that she has that quick reference thing. This spelling dictation, which she didn't love spelling dictation. She said she's ready for a spelling list, which for years we've been doing dictation. That's her preference. She doesn't like it. So I think next year I'm going to try to get her an actual spelling curriculum. On top of this, she just didn't love this, but it was good. I thought the sentences were really good. So the teacher just reads them out of here and then she writes them down. So they also have these geography cards, like flashcards. So she has geography and grammar cards. I love that that's in it because she's learning states and capitals. She's learning other countries, how to find them on a map just by these flashcards that she flips through every day. And the grammar cards just keeps even stuff like, from a noun to an independent clause to, different things like that. I love that those are on flashcards so she can keep reviewing it because we forget that stuff sometimes. So I loved the Good and the Beautiful language. So my 4th grader also did the Good and the Beautiful. She used level 3. I will say the biggest bummer about this, and I've heard lots of people complain about it. I don't know why it didn't happen. I may just have a rougher kid here, but these books are awful, like completely awful. So I really hope they fix the binding, because it's this, like the way the wire is, this just falls out. And I saw this trick that you're supposed to sew it to keep it in. And as you can see, it still fell out again. The back cover is completely off. That's kind of a bummer. I hope they change the binding. I've heard so many people complain about it on their Facebook page and different things and reviews. So I hope that that's in the works for next year, but I have no idea. Either way, we're going to use it again. But it was super annoying that this kept coming off. But it is nice. They've got a little pocket in the front. So luckily the front cover didn't come off. And that's where we keep her spelling words for the week. And then she usually has a poem that she's working on. So she's got her poem in here. The spelling was really good for her. Hers was a little different. I would read her spelling words. I have her write them on the board. Anything she gets wrong, I write it on the note card. And that's what she has to work on all week. And then they have different activities, and it was funny things. And for this kid, this was the right kid for this, but like bounce in your chair as you spell the word, or I would find her on the floor doing sit-ups, and it's like, do sit-ups as you're spelling this word, or different things. So they had like her doing physical activities while she was learning how to spell these words. And I think she liked it. It made spelling more fun. Hers also had lots of art throughout, which is more picture studies and different things like that. I don't think she did much of anything for actual art. So that's one thing that I just don't think I realized. I thought it was going to be like, I don't think she did any painting. So that's something that if you want to have painting and things like that, or drawing, or actual like physical art, you might want to get something else. But art appreciation and art picture studies, I thought it was great. We really loved this. I feel like she learned a lot and it kept her interest, and that was really fun. She also has a personal reader, the level 3. So this has little stories. This wasn't, I don't know if it's just her preference. She doesn't mind as much the less action-packed stories, so she was fine with the stories. My other daughter was the one that didn't find him that interesting, but she likes pioneer type of stuff and different things. So the stories were good. It's nice that it comes with this little book. So I would say I really did like this level for the Good and the Beautiful. So my 2nd grader also used the Good and the Beautiful for their language art. She did the level 1 course book, and hers was the same stuff that the other one said phonics. Well, hers actually had phonics where the other ones didn't. Phonics, reading, spelling, writing, literature, grammar, punctuation, and art appreciation. So that's what they call it, is art appreciation, where the other ones, they called it art, but I think it's kind of the same thing. Again, this book is a disaster. I sewed this one together to try to keep the binding on, but it doesn't even close right. So that is my biggest complaint, is that these books are awful. But hopefully they'll fix that. I don't know. But I loved the quality of it. I loved the pages are just so pretty and colorful, and she did really well. She really excelled in it. But she also had picture studies that we would talk about and notice different things. And I like how the lessons are broken up with a section for the teacher to do with the kid and then independent practice. So she always has this independent practice to do after her and I work together. And that's nice too when you've got, it does take time for me to work with her and me to work with my 4th grader, but there is a point where when you finish the out loud part of the lesson, then she can go do her independent stuff and then I can work with the next kid. So I feel like it is a good curriculum for having multiple kids because there's enough independent stuff that they can do together. But this was just really good. They also have, they give you these sight word cards that some are words, some are just letter sounds. So different like sounds that they're learning. They have to know which sounds go with that word. And these are nice laminated cards. So she just works her way through these and we flip through them. Sometimes she studies them on her own and sometimes I quiz her. But I liked that they had those and they're good quality flashcards. And then this was her level 1 reader. I love this. This was my favorite reader out of all of them because it was just sweet stories. It starts off pretty easy, at least for my daughter. She was able to read these with no problem, but they're pretty pictures. She always was so excited to read this. And it's not every day. You read this every, I don't know how often, every once in a while, but they're all beautiful little stories. So I loved this reader. This was great. And she really loved reading it. So the last thing we did with The Good and the Beautiful is handwriting. So I did that for all 3 of my girls. So we had the level 2 for my youngest, the level 4 for my 4th grader, and then the level 6 for my 6th grader. And I love these handwriting. I thought it was really good. This was the level 2. I like that they have pictures in here. Some of the things that they're copying was kind of cool. Like this says a noun is a word for a person, place, or a thing. So it's not just like writing silly things. Sometimes you're writing colors or something like that, but sometimes they're writing Bible verses or sometimes they're writing, you know, something that they should be learning. So it was pretty and fun, and I think she really loved it. So this was the level 4. Hers is, I think, all cursive, but I think it's fun that they do this and then they've got usually a picture to draw. So theirs has a little more art, and I think this was neat because we didn't get as much art in the language as I had planned, but there's usually, you know, that teaches her how to do the letters and then you have to copy something and hers does mix in sometimes it's print and cursive, which I think is good because, you know, if you do too much of one, then you kind of forget how to do the other one. So I really liked all of these levels. The level 6 had a little bit more challenging drawing and things, and then the print is smaller, but stuff like this, I just thought it was really cool how they taught the different art things and they taught about shading. There's almost always going to be a picture with the cursive. But level 6 has scripture sometimes, and then it also had states and capitals. So I liked that a lot of times they had to do the states and capitals. So they're learning stuff as they're doing it. They did that a lot of states and capitals. This has presidents, but then it's always got like a picture. So I think that was a whole lot more fun than some of the handwritings that we've done in the past. It's just handwriting. So I thought it was really fun and I did love it. So I'm pretty sure that is everything that we used for 2020 to 2021. And overall, we pretty much loved everything that we did. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.